What's going on there, folks? Good evening. The Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this Wednesday evening, February 16th, 2022, about 6:56 p.m. California time out here along the West Coast. Quite the active day of movement on the Earthquake 3D globe. Checking out the latest quake here on the Earthquake 3D globe. Shows a 4.3 earthquake here in this area of the world. See a little bit of swarming and uptick outside of the Mediterranean Sea here within the region of Greece over the last 24 hours. Looks like about 3 earthquakes or so within that region. Let's go ahead and check that out on the latest map here. There's that 4.3 in the Greece area. You can see it's in a pretty designated area of past historical movement on the map there. Quite a bit of large earthquake activity does take place in this region. So a couple 4s kicking off there, not that big of a deal. Looking at the rest of the map, make sure we got this refreshed. There we go. Not for sure why it didn't refresh, but anyway, definitely some activity kicking up here in this area of Greece, right along the, actually north of the trench region, well north of this trench, just off the coast. Looks like two 4.3s and a 4.2. One of them about 27 kilometers below the surface there. The other two looks like about 10 kilometers or so. The rest of the region, though, overall pretty quiet in terms of earthquake activity above 4.0. I did see some further movement north of the Canary Islands area, off the coast of Morocco, a 4.9, right out here around this little island here. Yeah, about 10 kilometers or so below the surface. Not really too familiar with this area. Madeira Rise. Madeira, hopefully pronounced that correctly. If not, you're welcome to correct me, like always. So a little bit of strange, unusual activity out there in that region of the world, north of the Canary Islands once again. Mid-Atlantic Ridge did see some further movement, 5.0. Earlier today, down south, of course, this earthquake in the South Sandwich Islands area, somewhat deep into the subduction zone, 5.5 kilometers for that earthquake. A couple big stories out there today. Of course, early this morning, that 6.2 that struck in the Guatemala area. This did not happen off the coast, but into the subduction zone. Luckily for these folks here, it was pretty deep, 83 kilometers down into the Middle America Trench. Now, definitely quite a few folks did report feeling this earthquake. Quite a few viewers here on this channel reported that. Did do a little bit of damage, nothing significant from what I hear, but here was quite the roller. Luckily for these folks, this was pretty deep. Had it been a little bit more on the shallow side, we'd probably be talking about a little bit more damage. But 6.2, a couple aftershocks there in the area of the Guatemala area. Roughly about the same depth there into the subduction zone of the Middle America Trench, a 4.5 and a 4.1. The other hot topic, hot story out there tonight, a 6.8. Pretty large earthquake, and not only the large, I mean, this region obviously sees some deep earthquake activity. They see it all the time. We see 4s and some upper 4s ranging down there 500-600 kilometers, but it's not too often do we see significant deep movement at that large of a magnitude. That's a major adjustment going on down there in this area of the Kermadec Trench and the Tonga Trench region. Down dip, 535 kilometers below surface. That's something brewing. Something definitely adjusting down there in a big way. Looking at the map, far as any further activity following that 6.8, looking over here, we've seen some movement, like I mentioned, in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. A little bit of activity in the California region as well. I think California getting in on the brunt of the action, the North American plate, when it comes to subsequent earthquake activity. Look at this line of movement up here from the southern end of the Cascadia. This earthquake right here, pretty deep, folks. This one's a 2.5 at 28.3 kilometers. A subduction zone quake here into the Cascadia megathrust area, Northern California. Working our way down south. Is this a 2.5? Yeah, this is just a 2.5 and above. Some further movement into the geyser area, and also right here on the Hayward Fault system to south of the San Leandro area. We've seen a 2.9. This one right here, very capable, producing a pretty large earthquake through a very highly populated region. A lot of folks fear this one more every day, I think. I believe there was a study put out on this one quite a few years ago talking about the likelihood of a large earthquake on here, and it's, man, every day that goes by, it's looking like it'll be bigger and bigger. Anyway, 2.9, 6.2 kilometers, average depth there, what we see on these typical fault systems. Some further activity as well. San Juan Bautista area, 7 kilometers there. Just off the San Andreas fault zone, of course, the plate boundary. Looks like on the Santa Cruz Mountain section. Some further activity down here off the coast here, or just on the coast range. Been watching this area near San Simeon. Is that right? I know I got corrected. I seen your comment. I seen a couple comments about being corrected on this, but every single time I forget it. To me, it just looks like San Simeon. Okay. Anyway, you guys get it. It's right there. There has been a little bit of movement here over the last 7 days or so within this area of this town. And so far today, the last one, a 3.4. So we're looking at a little bit on the larger side of magnitudes ramping up here, just off the oceanic fault zone. A couple other fault systems throughout the coast range here as well. It's well off of the San Andreas fault, which sits over here to the east by, man, 50, 60 miles or more. But there is definitely some fault systems that run through here, and kind of looks like it's just off of the oceanic fault zone. But either way, it's something to watch pretty closely. Just over the last 24 hours here, we've seen 4 earthquakes in the range of 3 to 3.4 on the magnitude here. And looks like 5 to 6 kilometers down below those mountains. Some further activity. Here's this shows the all magnitudes, pretty much below 2.5 and is 2.5 as well. You can see that movement kind of kicking up around the Bay Area. I mean, it's looking pretty active out here, specifically around this area of California. Not so much inland. If you watch my videos over the last couple days, you'll notice me talk about the quietness out here along the eastern part of Sierra Nevada. I'm just thinking right here that stress is pretty well built up, and these little microquakes are coming to a halt, including the activity down here in the Ridgecrest area. But subsequently, we had that 4.7 there around the Tonopah, Nevada area yesterday or the day before, and I believe that pressure is kind of working its way inward. If not inward, we're looking at quite a bit of pressure out here along this plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault. So something to watch pretty closely. It's obviously kicking up in a big way with all this movement up and down the region, and also just inland onto these other fault systems. So something to watch pretty closely in the coming hours and over the next 24 hours here. I mean, look at this. Eastern Sierra Nevada, pretty quiet, folks. I mean, Ridgecrest is just very, very spotty. Maybe a little bit of activity up here around the Coso Basin volcanic field. But look at this. I don't recall the last time I seen just only 2 earthquakes around the Ridgecrest area. That's just a little on the odd side. Most of it's there on the Garlock Fault Zone. This one's normally the quiet area, but kind of kicking up here. Down in the southern part of the state, I can pretty much say the same thing. The San Jacinto Fault Zone, a little bit of activity, nothing significant. There is a little bit of swarming around the Thomas Mountain area, Little Thomas Mountains, north of the Ramona Indian Reservation, it looks like. Just a segment of the San Jacinto Fault area. It's a pretty lengthy fault system that run up and down the southern part of the state. But overall, looking at the magnitudes and the multitudes here, it's just about the same as the eastern part of the Sierra Nevada. It's very quiet in terms of average quakes here. Santa Paula, Sulphur Mountain. Sulphur Mountain. Didn't we see some type of swarming out there over the last week? Let's check this out here. Yes, we did. That's right around this area where we've seen swarming over the last week or so, about 21 earthquakes along this fault system. Mission Ridge Fault, San Cayetano, that's right. I remember talking about this here a few days ago. The San Cayetano Fault Zone runs over here. It's a little thrust fault area. That's kind of why we're seeing all this deeper movement. You can see these deep earthquakes here, roughly ranging from 2 to 14, 16 kilometers for some of them. Holy smokes, 18 kilometers for that 3.9. So this is some pretty deep movement in a thrust area, thrust fault zone. But man, what do we got here for the last day or so? Quite a few ones in there, including a 2.7. So overall, general seismic activity here up and down the coast, pretty active, folks. Got to watch this pretty closely. Geyser activity really ramping up out here, kind of spreading out here south of the typical swarm area. Normally we see it clustered in this region, but we are seeing some activity migrate to the south. But there is thermal operations here from Calpine energy plants, right? They're the green, so-called green energy company. They're using raw sewage to inject down there to create energy, steam and energy. I'm not 100% certain the entire process, but I think it'd be kind of cool to go down there and check out here soon again. So yeah, kicking up in a big way. Probably not what the Calpine company wants to see. What else we got? So yeah, Eastern Sierra Nevada, pretty quiet. A little bit of movement here in the Tonopah area, Mina, Nevada region. But overall, seismic activity inland is quiet. And that goes for the same up here, Oregon, Washington area. Still some movement out here around Mount St. Helens. We've been talking about this for quite a while. No further mention of anything going on here from the USGS when it comes to the volcanic activity here. And let's see what we got here for seismographs. I was checking out the PNSN Mount St. Helens seismograph stations here. It's a pretty cool site to check out from these folks. You can check out many volcanoes throughout the Cascades and the region there of just general earthquake activity. Got to zoom in to see all the movement. Looking at these guys are showing 109 earthquakes within the last 30 days, specifically at Mount St. Helens. I mean, it's right smack dab in the crater area and a little bit outside the movement. Excuse me. Just had a pretty good barbecue with some chicken, and Missy Mimi's made some rice-a-roni and some good old mashed potatoes. Thank you very much, here, Missy Mimi's. I love that. A good dinner as always. I got to give a shout out to her because she's a good cook. But I barbecued the chicken, so I got to take a little bit of credit for that as well. There's a 3-component broadband station we can check out for seismic activity over the last day or so. See if it's going to let us. Man, I hate when it's like that. It's kind of hard to decipher the activity. Let's see here. I believe that activity is the movement there in the Fiji area earlier. Let's check out the timestamp here on that. I want to be sure of that because I'm going to show you guys something here in a minute as well. Okay, so this is at 2021.06 for that 6.8. So 2021. Yeah, that's going to be about right. So that's kind of when the 6.8 struck out there. I noticed an odd feature, something odd going on when that earthquake struck. We seen it strike live on the seismographs, but at just about a minute or two later, maybe probably about 3 or 4 minutes later, we seen what looked like localized earthquake activity hit the Mount St. Helens area, and that's kind of what we're seeing there as well. So this verifies the activity. I don't believe that is the reading. I mean, this reading right here is from the 6.8. We get the surface waves coming in. That could be a P wave, and surface waves, a very wavy line. But I think there was some type of regional earthquake there along the North American plate, an adjustment all at once following that deep 6.8. I've seen it show up on the Mount St. Helens area. I've seen it show up on the Northern California station all at the same time. So, not for sure what happened, but it was definitely a little bit of adjustment there along the North American Pacific plate area almost immediately following that 6.8. As far as local earthquake activity here, I still kind of think that's one. And the S waves coming in there following that. But looking at this other earthquake activity, a little bit of localized movement there at Mount St. Helens. And the prior day to that, we've definitely seen the activity ramp up as well. So we're watching it. We're definitely watching the activity there at Mount St. Helens. I checked the tremor earlier, and apparently it hasn't updated, or there's no tremor activity to report. Kind of odd, right? We did see a pretty significant uptick in tremor. Not last night, but the night before. We've seen about 280 epicenters. Last night was about 8, confined to mainly Northern California. But tonight, as you can see here on the map, folks, zip. Hey, what's wrong with my hand? You guys see that? I wonder if that's showing up here on the wow. I'm not for sure what happened there. Looks kind of weird. You guys see that? I noticed that the Earthquake 3D thing, the update box was doing that as well, just kind of discolored. Not for sure what's going on. And I got this little window open here on the desktop. Can't figure out what it is. It's just open and it blocks the hand. I don't know. I'm hoping I don't have any malware, but everything's up and running successfully like it should be, as far as the live stream goes. And I think I hopefully fixed that issue. Knocking on wood, with the live stream going down. I believe I had some type of hacker going through a back door through one of my apps, kind of giving me a denial of service type of attack that would bring down the stream from YouTube. So hope we got that fixed, but I'm not for sure what this window is. Just a little on the odd side. Moving on past the oddness, what do we got out here? Puerto Rico area. Got to watch this region pretty closely as well. A little bit of movement over the last 24 hours. We haven't seen any significant uptick. Looks like a 3.3 since the 6.8 that struck. A lot of times we like to look at immediate subsequent activity following a large, deep earthquake like this. It can have a lot of adverse effects up here throughout the Pacific Ring of Fire. And I'm a strong believer, very strong believer of how one earthquake can affect a plate thousands of miles away. It doesn't even have to be on the same plate. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle, folks, if you look at it. So those saying, well, this 6.8 has nothing to do with the earthquake activity in Puerto Rico or the activity that occurred immediately after, that's just not good. That's false, because activity does ultimately get affected worldwide by events like this. Even smaller quakes can cause localized adjustments and movements on other plates nearby. What else we got here? So we're on the 2.5. Let's go back down here to the all magnitudes. Kind of wanted to look at some activity out here around the Cedar, Utah area. Still seeing that swarm of movement out here right around the Sunnyside, Utah area. Very shallow earthquakes here at the surface. Let's go ahead and check out the satellite view here. See what we got going on out here in the mountain ranges. Maybe somebody digging a hole. Maybe building a bug out cave. I don't know. That's weird. But what's up with my hand? Okay, that is weird. Really weird. Anyway, not for sure what's going on out there. There has been a pretty good swarm of activity over the last month or so. Probably the last couple months. Going back the last 30 days, you'll kind of see what I'm getting at here. Looks like about 187 earthquakes confined to this little line of activity out here. Just right there. And not seeing any regional fault systems here on the USGS map, but I'm sure there is some around here, right up against the this mountain range. Go back a couple months prior to that and add a few more hundred onto that total number. But definitely something to watch out there in Utah for sure. Yellowstone. Let's check that out real quick. See if we got any. Oh, this is what I was going to show you guys here. So the 6.8 that struck, right? The 6.8 that came in. Look what it did here. Look at this. Okay, most of the time, I'm sure a lot of you folks know, but I'm going to explain it again. A lot of times when we see a large earthquake like that, we'll see, like the 6.8 that struck earlier, we'll see this distinct signature and then kind of drawn out, and then it'll kind of fade out, if you will, and just get into some wavy lines. But here, I see 3 distinct earthquakes back to back. Was there more earthquakes in that 6.8 than the one 6.8? Let me go back here over to Yellowstone. I'm starting to think so, because we've seen it pop up here on this map. These charts give you a good indication of when there's a presence of, kind of like an increase in magnitudes. I see 1, 2, 3 earthquakes. I'm starting to think maybe there was 3 6s. that happened there around the Fiji area. That's a whole lot of earthquake activity if that is the case. We'll see if they get to it. A lot of times the earthquake activity, just like, for example, down in the South Sandwich Islands, the Trench, last year they had that 8-pointer, right? It was 8.1 or 8.3. I can't remember exactly. But it originally came in as like a 7.5. The 7.5 overshadowed the signature of that 8.1, 8.2, and it didn't even come out until hours later. I think it was hours later, maybe a day later, that there was actually a larger magnitude in that shadow of the first earthquake. So sometimes that can happen, but I see 3 distinct earthquakes there right at that time frame. These 6.8 struck, and they're all over the place. You can see them on this chart, that chart, this chart, and getting a little bit further away, say for example Little West Thumb. Let's check them out. Not showing it as significant, but look, 1, 2, 3. I see 3 distinct. That's probably 6.8. That's got to be at least another 6-pointer, if not a mid-6, and another 6-pointer. So we'll see if the USGS deciphers this and comes out with a different reading than just one earthquake. It's showing up on all of these. Look, 1, 2, 3. See that? So it's there. Something odd happened. It's not your typical earthquake activity. It's something just a little on the weird side. Over here too, Pelican Cove. See that? Boom, boom, boom. So just remember that. Kind of keep those words that I just told you in the back of your mind. We'll see if the USGS adds these earthquakes onto the map here, because I think there was 3 of them within this area. Or unless there's other earthquake activity that is not being shown up here, but I think something odd's going on there with that most recent quake there in the Fiji area. Okay, so back to Yellowstone here. Got a little sidetracked. Local earthquake activity. There's not a whole lot to look at. A little bit of movement around the borehole area, and some movement up here around the Maple Creek. See that little distinct earthquake activity, and a couple more spikes. That window is so odd. I don't get it. Wait a minute. My hand is normal now. Okay. Very funny. So a little bit of activity here, stretching up. Just some small microquakes, but overall, things really pretty calm there at Yellowstone National Park. Getting back over here to the all magnitudes map across the country. Pretty calm, folks. Not a whole lot of movement around the earthquake country of Texas. Okay. And New Madrid Zone had that earthquake earlier this morning in the Missouri area, 2.2. Eastern part of the country looks pretty quiet. South America, some movement along the Peru-Chile Trench. Let's check out the big island of Hawaii. Some activity stretching out across the Loihi Seamount and the southeast flank. A little bit of activity up here around the Mauna Loa area as well, with a 3.0 and Kilauea as well. Let's see what else we got here. Checking out the volcanoes here in the Big Island. Hawaii Volcano Observatory. All things looks pretty much about the same in terms of the advisories and whatnot. I'm not going to go through all those, but Kilauea still sitting at an orange watch level. Mauna Loa still at a yellow and advisory. Latest update here from the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory daily update. Summit eruption at the volcano paused, starting around midnight with minor ooze outs and diminished glowing. All recent lava activity has been confined to the crater, and there are no indications of activity migrating elsewhere on Kilauea. So a little bit of pause. Kind of does that at times. A pause, it comes and goes. A pause, it does what it wants to, right? It's Mother Nature, it's Earth, and nothing we can do to stop that. What do we got for Mauna Loa? These guys, not a whole lot going on there. We were watching some swarms, right? Last week or so. In fact, the last earthquake update, or the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory update, was put out on the 10th. So not a whole lot going on there. No new activity to report on the Big Island for volcanoes. Solar weather, we had a pretty significant CME kickoff on the far side of the sun. One of the most impressive space weather events of Solar Cycle 25. Pretty crazy event. It blasted off a massive CME I mean, look at that thing compared to the sun right here. Oh my gosh, that thing is huge. Luckily, we were not in the Earth side, or it was not in the Earth side area. It's all directed away from the planet. Right now, flaring activity is kind of diminishing here, folks. But man, I think that'd be, I don't know. I kind of want to see solar activity ramp up on the Earth side here. 2948 looking, it's just a little spotty here, folks. Nothing significant going on here on the Earth side. We're getting gypped here in terms of solar activity. Solar sunspot activity right now. Count is 111. All right, folks. Earthquakes Canada. Let's check this out here while we're at it. Kind of like to look at these guys here. Looks like a little bit of movement at the northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone here. Cascadia subduction zone sits right about here. Begins right here with my weird-looking hand. I don't know what's going on with it. Could have something to do with this window. I don't know. Hopefully you guys are seeing it. Maybe it's just on my side, but it looks weird. And yeah, a little bit of earthquake activity here around the Explorer plate. Looks like 3.0 earlier today, and some further movement up here right at the northern end of the plate boundary. Looking across the rest of Canada here, a little bit of movement. Looks like the latest quake up here. 2.4 right around the Quebec area. What is that? Capchat? Is that right? Capchat? QC region, 24.4 kilometers for a 2.4. What's up with all these numbers and sequences of numbers? Everything's just odd. It's like 2.4 at 4.4 depth. Been seeing that all day. Something, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe we're in the matrix right now. Just kind of odd. All right, folks, I'm gonna jump off here. Maybe have a little bit more dinner. I could always go for some more chicken. Have a good night, guys. Stay safe out there, and we will keep you guys updated pending anything else pops off out here. The likelihood of that happening is very high following this deep earthquake and large earthquake movement. I mean, we've seen that 6.2 Guatemala, and then a very deep 6.8 in Fiji, the Tonga region. Definitely something popping off out here pretty soon. Got to be prepared and stay safe out there. Just have an earthquake plan. Stay tuned to the channel for further updates. We will chat you guys a little bit later on. Have a good night, everyone. Peace out.